There we go. That should do it. Looks good. Volume looks good. It's not too bad. Bump that down just a little bit, actually. Like so. That should be good. I hopes. Whoops. Excuse me. Doing a little flight planning.
Check this out.
Get to pick an arrival into Seattle. Let's see, we'll be coming from the south, and I just blew away my departure. Crud. Hold on. Get that departure back up here. The Salem 3. Okay. Got that one, so then we hop back up to Seattle. And we're gonna need an arrival. We have Chins 2. Let's see what that looks like. Chins 2. Oh geez. It's rotated. Okay. Try a different one. I don't like that one. Ephrata 8. Let's see what that one looks like. Dang it! I gotta be careful when I open up these damn PDFs. Let's see. Nope, that one's not gonna work either. Let's try Glasser 1. Nope. Hawks 5. Ooh, Hawks 5 is promising. Klamath Falls. Okay, there's BTG. Oh, wow, yeah, this one starts way, way farther south than we are. You know what? We're in a Caravan. I don't need a rival. We're not even gonna be at that altitude. Flight level 240. No, thank you. Yeah, that's the ILS. I don't need that. Actually, I think we could do this VFR. I think we'll do that. We'll do an instrument approach, but we will still do a VFR flight up there. I think that'll sound good. That'll work out well. I do hope. It should be fine. Alright, let's map our course. Let's delete our previous flight plan. So we're going to take off from KSLE, McNary Field in Salem, Oregon. And we're going to head up to Seattle, Tacoma. Oh, har har. Hi. Welcome to the stream. You get to hear double! You're not even listening, are you? Did think so.
It's delayed.
It is delayed. Huh?
Wow, really delayed.
Yeah. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah. Well, this is going all the way down to Dallas, you know. This is going all the way down to Dallas. That's halfway across the country. No matter where we go, it's halfway across the country. What was I doing before I got so rudely interrupted and distracted?
Oh, darn.
Yes. Flight plan. McNary Field in Oregon up to Seattle, Tacoma. Correction. I'm gonna have a flight path only because it is mountainy. And we're not going terribly high, and the mountains are high. Very, very high. So we will follow some semblance of a flight plan. Alright, so we're going to take off. We're going to head direct to Newburgh. Hey, Rykon. And then from Newburgh, you know, while I'm babbling, let me show you what I'm doing here. There we go. So we'll go from here, waypoint at Newburgh, and then I think we can go over to Attissay. Yeah, looks good enough. Will that get me there where I want to be? Yes, it's gonna work. So then we'll go up to Olympia, the VOR right there. From Olympia, I gotta see where this... Where is Sidug? Sidug. C-I-D-U-G. Wow, I just... I broke my flight path. That's not good. Undefined. Let's get rid of the undefined. We don't want undefined in here. There we go. I broke it. Hey, Yergs. I broke it. Let's refresh that. Okay, that looks better. How is the Yergs? Let's see. Now, if I was a big jetliner, I wouldn't like this sharp turn here, but I'm in a low, slow Cessna, so I think we can make it work. Once we get to Sidug, that's when we're going to turn in to CFFJR. CFFJR. Bam. Like so. And then that's our approach path right there. Oh, that's good, Yergs. That's a good. Alright, so let's pop off of Chrome. Boop. There we go. Welcome to the Cessna Caravan. This is the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan. Seats 14 people. It's an awesome plane. It's basically a giant 172. It flies, handles about the same. It's just a little bulkier, a little beefier, a little bit faster, but it flies just like a 172, even if it is a turboprop. Whatever. Jumping inside. Yeah. Do. That's cool, Rykon. Whatever you gotta do. Whatever you gotta do. I'm gonna throw the prop lever full. Flick the power. Get our fuel boost. I'm gonna turn that down just a little bit so we can hear that. There we go. Because this plane sounds mean. There we go. Okay, here we go. Throttle's all the way back. Why is throttle no worky? That's scary. Anyways. So we're going to come over here. You see our N2 rise. When it gets about 15, 17, we will introduce the fuel. Right now this is the internal bits of the turbine engine rotating. There is 20%. Now we'll look back up here. We should see the IT come up. We should see the N2 continue to rise, and then slowly the prop RPM, as well, I mean obviously the prop's turning, so you know. And then we'll see that come up. Torque stays low. Temperature and pressures coming into the green, looking good. And that's a good start. High idle. Fuel boost comes off. Starter comes off. I got a low fuel light from my previous flight, so I didn't bother filling up in Seattle. I had enough fuel to get here. Just enough fuel. Let's get some flaps in there. Let's get some lights on. That'll work. Let's load up our passengers. See what we got. And we got, what was that, 5 passengers from Salem here. That's where we're at. Oh, avionics. That might help. Let's get our flight plan set up by deleting the original. Bam! Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is going to fly to the Uniform Bravo Golf. Whoa! Golf, 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 golf. There we go. There's the Newburgh VOR. From Newburgh, it's going to go up to Addisea. There's a fix quite a ways up called KSY. Bam. There's that fix. I'm going to take this up to the Olympia VOR, Oscar Lima Mike. Oscar Lima Mike. There we go. Then it's going to be a right turn to Sedug as we start our approach. C I D U a G. Sedug. I'm going to go CFFJR. That'll be the second fix within the approach. CFF Juliet Romeo. Bam. CFFJR. And then we're going to, there's a few other fixes along the approach, but they'll get programmed in automagically as we approach the airport. And Seattle Tacoma is our destination tonight. Once I get up in the air, then I'll get a direct to. Let's see, let's set our altitudes. So we're going to go, let's go 10,000. Should be a decent enough cruise altitude. Almost there, 10,000 feet. Let's check the altimeter. The altimeter is 3027, so we scooch in here really close. There's our altimeter, 3027, so 987. Bam. It gives us our field elevation. If you don't have the altimeter, one of the things you can do is if you know the field elevation at your location. Hey, Dav. If you don't know the altimeter, if you know the field elevation, you can set your altimeter to the field elevation, and that will give you your field elevation. For example, I don't know what the field elevation is here, but if I was at my home airport in Ohio, Toledo Metcalf, it's 622 feet. So I would take this and point it at 622 feet, roughly around there. Which means if I was in Toledo, the pressure would be 3.76, looks like, or 7.8. But it's not. It's 327. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Bam. Alright, what else? 2120 looks good. We're gonna put that on standby for right now. ADF, I'm not gonna use the ADF. That's gonna wind up being GPS. Flaps 3/4 down. Turn our taxi light. Alright, there we go. Alright, let's take a look at where we're at. Center on aircraft. And zoom in. Okay, now what I want to do, I want to check the winds first before I verify I can do this. Okay, you can see my last flight came in here, but there's a problem with this field. Right about here. You know what? We should be in the air by then. You know what? I'll leave it. We'll make it a surprise. We'll make it a surprise. Alright. Now this plane is quick to taxi. I almost have to ride the brakes. And as I've said before, I don't have the rudder pedals, so therefore I don't have the toe brakes. Instead, I just have two side-by-side buttons on the hat switch, or near the hat switch on my joystick. And there's two of them, and if I put my thumb in the middle of them, I can actually press both of them, or just one or the other. Tonight, Dav, we are in Salem, Oregon. I bought this airplane from a guy up in Alaska, up in Anchorage, and I've been flying it from Alaska all the way down the coast. I crossed the runway here. I'm pretty sure. Right there. Okay. Yeah, I've been flying this Caravan down the coast to get out of Alaska, because as appropriate as a Caravan is up in Alaska, it's hard to find assignments up there. Not to mention the a lot of the flights go into Canada, into the like Northwest Territories up there and whatnot. Canadian approach plates and aeronautical charts are not exactly freely available like they are in the U.S. So if I want to, even if I want to fly into Vancouver International, I can't find I can find approach plates from like 2004, but guess what? They've changed. A lot of the fixes don't exist anymore, so I can't actually use them. All of the aircraft that I use in FS Economy, it's bumpy out here. I'm housing them in Cedar Rapids in Iowa. It's a decent enough central location. Can get most of the way around the country, in some of the bigger planes, and I'm near enough some of the other stuff, the bigger cities in the Midwest. But I think this Caravan, I'm checking out how things look on the West Coast though. if there's a decent amount of, excuse me, assignments, then I might leave it here, or I might take it down to Florida, and do some Caribbean runs. Quick check here real quick. Let's see. Green, 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 green. Prop looks good. Torque clearly. I'll calibrate that when I get in there. That's good, that's good. Turn on the landing lights. Strobe light comes on. Pitot static heat comes on. Those full. Take off trim, come back a little bit. That'll work. Alright. That should... Oh, I gotta set the... So we're gonna climb out at about 700. Seemed to be good last time, so we'll leave it there. Alright. Runway 31. So we're already heading in our general direction. Do you? Direct flights from Tucson to Chicago, huh? Well. Convenient. Alright. Runway 31. 31 for magnetic deviation. Yep, looks good. Make sure I start at economy. Yep, looks good. Off we go. Hopefully I can get across the runway before it's too late. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. There's a terrain error, but I should be airborne long before that. You can kind of see it right there, and airborne. Yay, I missed it. I missed it. Notch flaps up. Whee. Alright, let's get a direct to bam. Bam. So I know roughly which way to go. Another notch flaps up. Hand fly this a little bit of the way up. And then that can go to altitude squawk. There we go. Yeah, it's a bit. Let me get bing, bing, and bing going, because I want to do this. Make sure he's all good. He's good. Okay. We're gonna hop out of the plane, and you can see that. You can see it right there. But yeah, I mean, it's a literal... Yeah, that's probably a better picture. You can see it. I mean, it's probably about a foot tall. But I landed, and I had already touched down. I was slowing down. I saw it, and I pulled back, and literally kind of like bunny hopped over it, and technically landed again. It was kind of cool. Let's get back in the plane. Oh, I know. I love it. Jumping out of the plane like that. So yeah, this be Oregon. This be Oregon. Coming through 2,000 feet. Got some mountains over there. It's gonna get a little loud for a minute, but it's not as bad as the other plane. Hey, I like the Ferrari Mosquito, okay? It's an awesome plane. It is a feat of engineering. Beautiful. Yada, yada, yada. Oh, you'd be missing your on this plane anyways, you'd lose your nose gear. Because it's probably as big as the tire. But, yeah. Not bad. Not bad looking place. Oh, I finally found out I can get rid of this thing. Boop! Oh, so much better. I can see things. I can see clearly now. The yoke is gone. Ah, so good. So good. Actually, I've got the speed. My flaps all the way up? Yes, sure. Let's, see if we can't go climb a little higher, faster. We have the power. But yeah, look. I mean, looking at the airspeed gauge there, it's not. It's faster than a 172, but it's well. You know, it's like a high performance 172. Heck yeah, Dev. We got to do that. We keep talking about it. We got to do that. Which actually, you know what? That reminds me. I can move my I'll move my Super Cub tonight. We'll land in Seattle, and then we'll take a red-eye flight over to crap. Where is it? It's on Long Island, I think. Let's see. He's in Montauk. Yeah. We put him down in Montauk. So yeah, we'll do that again. We'll hop in there and see if I can't get another engine failure mid-flight. Know how much you guys love that. Yeah. I moved the camera. I keep looking over there, but I moved over there. Yeah. The white on the wall was really bright, so I moved the camera over. But I keep looking over here. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Stop. Stop.
Move your camera.
I don't even know where my OBS is. There it is. Let's see. That's good enough. Come on. Ah, my hand gets in the way. Oh, that works. Okay. Alright, we're coming up on the... We're doing the climb up to cruise, so I'm going to turn the music up just a little bit. Come on. There we go. Bumpity bump. Alright, we did take off. I can turn off the lights. I can leave the position and anti-collision lights on. But the... Fair enough, Dav. Have fun, man. I got to fly this plane for realsies once. It was good. It was oh god. Actually, if you guys saw Kagame's tweet from earlier, he that's cool, Dev. Lurk away. No, Kagame for work today, he got to fly up to Toledo, jump off the airplane, hand deliver some car parts, and get back on the plane and fly home. Frankly, that's freaking cool. Not jelly at all. No. Only because I've kind of done that in this plane. Back when I was in high school, let's find a... decent view. No! I jumped out of the plane again, guys. Come on. Let's get a GoPro view or something. Ah! There's a hole there. Yeah, see? There's a hole right there. Forward, forward, forward. Stupid clouds. Ooh, I got an idea. Ah, no, 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 not that one. Forward. Forward. Let's go. Who's got a good view? I'm not outside the plane. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Anyways, as I was saying, so yeah, in high school, part of our senior graduation requirements, I think it was, we had to shadow somebody, anybody. Yeah, holes are bad. Holes are very bad. We had to shadow somebody while they worked, and at the time I was working for the banner tower out at Toledo Metcalf, and one of the banner towers was the head of maintenance at the FBO, where they also did charter and cargo flights. And every one of these songs gets louder and louder. Come on. No. There we go. Way big. Anyways. So my friend was, head of maintenance and knew a lot of the guys in that flew the cargo plane, the cargo flights and whatnot. So he hooked me up. I was following him. He was my target. Which basically involves sitting in the shop and watching the other guys work all day long, while we looked at the early days of the internet. You all know how that went. Yeah. Anyways, so he hooked me up with a midnight cargo run in the Cessna Caravan, in this aircraft. It didn't have the seats like this one does. It was cargo, so it was not upholstered at all. The front seats were clearly, but not there was nothing in the back. But he hooked me up with a midnight flight in the Cessna Caravan to fly from Toledo Metcalf up to Willow Run Airport in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Pick up several containers of... No, I'm sorry. Scratch that. Take off from Toledo Metcalf, fly to Jamestown, New York, which is actually just off the top of Ohio there, where Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York kind of come together. It's up in there. Fly there, pick up some car parts in large boxes, load them onto the aircraft, and then fly straight across the lake and land at Willow Run Airport in Ypsilanti, Michigan, to deliver said car parts, and then fly back to Toledo Metcalf. And this was a flight that we took off at 11 o'clock, 11:30, I think. Hey, Brendan. At least you're here. So yeah, I worked the 8 hours of following Brad in the morning or in the daytime, and went home. And instead of eating dinner, I tried to go to bed because it was going to be a long night. Then I had to be in the next morning to be back to work. So I showed up at the airport with, you know, bells and whistles, and we got on the plane and took off, flew out to Jamestown, and he let me fly a little bit over the lake, basically, and keep it straight and level. It seems to be most of what I was told those days, but we did do some, you know, lazy eights and that sort of thing, just to get the feel for the plane as we flew out to Jamestown, because we were, you know, on a timetable here, and it feels just like a big 172. And we're turning. Good old autopilot. So yeah, we flew into Jamestown, and I think that took like an hour and a half. And so by this time it's like 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that. And we landed, and I don't remember where I fell asleep. Because we had to wait for the car parts weren't at the airport. They were en route. They were being delivered. So we couldn't just land and pick up and go. And we're at 10,000 feet. Let's trim her out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to pull the prop lever back to about 1750 here, so right about there. The torque will come up a little bit, and that's okay. Pull back nice and slow. There's a little more. There. Close enough. 17 and a half. Torque comes up. Then what we do, we look at the ITT. We want it about 700 here. So we'll ease the throttle back, get that temperature down. Yes, that's 700 degrees. That's the internal turbine temperature. Once that's set, we'll look around. We have about 300 pounds per hour fuel flow. We have more than enough fuel to get there. Everything else is in the green, looking good. We are trimmed out for cruise. So yeah, I fell asleep somewhere in Jamestown Airport. If it wasn't on the plane, I think it was in the FBO. I think it was one of the chairs, one more uncomfortable chairs in the FBO. Passed out. I was gone. I couldn't stay awake. So the pilot dude let me sleep until they loaded up the plane. When the plane was loaded, he came, woke me up, and we hopped back in the plane. And by that point, I mean, that was like my nap. I was up the rest of the journey. So we flew, like I said, over Lake Erie and headed over to Ypsilanti, Willow Run. And this was where I learned something neat about aircraft. Some of the navigational tuners, because they do use radio frequencies, you can actually pick up AM radio stations on certain frequencies of your nav radios. So you just flick the speaker on, which I think on here is, there's a speaker. I forget where the speaker is in here. The Caravan, every Caravan is similar but a little bit different. Anyways, yeah, we turned on the speaker and got to listen to some sports talk as we flew over the lake. It was kind of interesting because, I mean, you know, most airplanes don't have a radio in them. And this was back in the day when XM satellite radio was just coming out in some of the fancy schmancy cars, and if you had the money to aftermarket, you know, that sort of thing. But it was unheard of, that sort of stuff. Even, you know, the GPS I have in this one right now is several generations updated from the one that was in there. In fact, the one that was in that plane looked a lot like this right here. So it had different buttons to plug in. Alright, that's cool, Dav. Have fun with that. Can't wait to see it. So it had buttons to configure, you know, the GPS, kind of like this one does here, with a dial, and you could change the letters so that you could go, you know, where you needed to go. But all it was, and actually I can show you what it looked like. I think about it. This. So this little, where this line is, that's the line that we have to stay on. That's our course. That's this purple line, magenta line, excuse me, right here. That's what that line represents. And then this just shows you how far off course, left or right, you are from the line. For example, if the line was over here, you're 2 miles to the right of course, and so you'd obviously have to turn until it centers, and then you regain your heading, which would be, you know, down here. But this was literally all it was. It was just that arrow going back and forth, and that's what we had to fly when we, you know, had our GPS plugged in. So even this is newer than what I flew. But so yeah, we got to listen to some radio stations up there. Wave, sweetie. 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 Wave.
Huh?
Wave. Thank you.
What am I waving for?
Brendan was waving at you.
Oh, I don't even have the stream open. I was doing schoolwork. Sorry. You guys are awesome.
Anyways. Then he showed me when we landed at Willow Run, he flew an instrument approach. Actually flew an ILS approach. And he showed me that even though the Caravan is not equipped for it, the autopilot and navigational aids in the aircraft are so well tuned that they can practically land themselves. And so he literally plugged it all in and flew the plane kind of not far off from what I usually do, all the way down to about 40 feet above. We were over the runway. The wheels were about 30 feet from touching down, you know. And it wasn't until then he kicked the autopilot off to just go kick, dee dee, done. And to me that was pretty amazing. That was pretty cool to witness that. And like I said, I know that the aircraft is not certified for that. He's not supposed to do that. But he's the pilot. It was cool. So when you guys see me do it, or I'll let this thing fly down to 200 feet before I kick off the autopilot. They can really do that. They can actually, well, some of the newer systems can do auto land. Not that that's a very well advertised feature, because what that effectively means is the pilot didn't land the aircraft. And you tell that to some people and they don't want to fly anymore. But yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. The pilot still has to basically, I think the regulation is even on auto land, you're holding onto the yoke all the way down to touchdown. But it will auto land. It's very similar to the auto parallel parking. It does everything that it needs to do to correct its course, just as you do when you parallel park. It works out distances, elevations, and speeds, and gives you a nice gentle glide in. And then when it knows, because a lot of the airliners have the radar altimeter, and so they always know exactly how high off the ground they are. And so once they hit 2,500 feet, so once they get that high, it's pretty accurate with the radar, knowing how high they are up off the ground. And using all that information, they can nice and gently, nice and easily just squeak one on. all the wind correction, all that stuff is all, it's all in there. But like I say, the pilot is still, he's not sitting there like this going, ah, yeah, 'tis the life. No. Landing is a very intense phase of flight. I have to be very alert and ready because a lot of the factors are stacked against you. Your reaction time is crucial because your speed is not very fast, your controls are not very effective, and you're not very high off the ground. So you got to be on your toes even if the plane is effectively flying itself. And actually, related to that, since we're talking automation, I saw a... yes, I have, Recon, I have. I have flown this plane. That was the story earlier, but you were probably busy. It's all good. Yeah, I've flown one of these for a little bit. I didn't take it off and I didn't land it, but I have flown it. I sat in there and went but I've flown other planes. I've flown Cessna 150s, Piper Super Cubs, Belenka Citabrias. Well, Citabria was just one. I have flown a 172, and those are the real planes. And then for simulators, I'm not talking like this, like this kind of simulator. I mean like the full motion, level D certified, we can sign your logbook flight simulators. I've flown an assortment of business jets and business props. I have not done any of the airliners, with the sole exception of a CRJ 200. That's probably the only airline aircraft that I have flown in a real simulator. But maybe this will help. I need to figure out a way to get this thing to plug into a USB interface. And I can use this instead of that. Tell me that wouldn't be cool. Yeah, the CRJ 200 is an awesome plane. Absolutely awesome plane. Absolutely awesome plane. So docile. Very docile. Yeah, that would be the only airliner type aircraft. It's not a very big one, but that would be one of the only ones that I've flown. The rest have been all business jets. Like some of the Global 5000, Falcon 50, the Hawker XP, Hawker 850, what else? The Astra, the B200, the CL300, the CL604. The CL604 is the smaller version of the CRJ 200. Similar layout. CRJ is just a little bigger and a little longer, but the CL604 is the business jet variant of a really small, really tiny CRJ. But anyways, yeah, as I was saying, as we were talking about automation things like Autoland, for example. I was watching a YouTube video the other day of a guy who streams just like I do over on Twitch, and he was flying a plane that looked very similar to the layout that I have here with the sometimes they're called steam gauges, sometimes they're called six-pack, but they're the analog instruments in an aircraft. I don't have glass panels. I don't have multi-touch displays in here, nothing fancy like that. And that's what Cat Strader was streaming with. I forget what plane he was flying in, honestly. But I went through and read his comments on his YouTube where he posted the stream. And one of the comments in there said, I couldn't believe it, it says, how do you fly with no panels, no glass panels? You know, how can you do that? That's amazing. And I just sat there in disbelief. I'm like, what? How? That's, you have to know how to do that. And then it occurred to me, no, you don't. There's no requirement per se that you have to know how to fly with a six-pack. Precisely. Because if the first plane that you step foot into is a G1000 equipped Cessna 172, you have 2 big screens. That's it. That's all you got. You got your 3 little backup instruments, but that's it. You learn how to fly with a television screen, with a computer monitor. Not this. And that's a big problem if you ever go to rent an aircraft, because most rental aircraft are not glass equipped. It's getting better, but in general, you're going to wind up flying off of one of these. So that was the guy's comment, and I struggled with the comment. And then I read some of the replies to it, because normally, you know, YouTube comments can get pretty... Whew. But thankfully, the people that were elsewhere in the channel, or that were providing comments to comments, were actually helpful and not quite so jerkish. The one comment that stood out to me was, what did he say exactly? Something to the effect of, oh, you must be one of the, quote, children of magenta. And he gave a link, it was a YouTube link. And I thought, well, that's kind of being a jerk. You just called him a child of magenta, and then linked him to a video. What the, you know, what's wrong with you, kind of thing. I was hesitant of it, but then I've seen that elsewhere. I've seen children of magenta talked about in some of the aviation subreddits that I look at. So I thought, you know, I've seen it before. Let me click this and let me see what it is. I clicked the YouTube link, and it took me to a it's a presentation, a videotaped presentation from 1999 or 1998 for that was put on by American Airlines. And what it was, it's this whole training seminar, I guess you could call it. It was in an auditorium and it's filled with pilots, and there was one guy giving a presentation. And the title of this particular one was Children of Magenta. And I wasn't quite sure what it meant, so I watched it. It's about 20 minutes long, and the guy was very informative. He's a well-seasoned American Airlines pilot, and he comes from the days when steam gauges were all you had. In fact, most of them were more vacuum tube than the mechanical gears that we have now. But he has seen and was part of the update to like glass cockpits and the increase in automation that happened in the late 80s and early 90s. What kind of happened there was there were a lot of accidents in the airlines that were attributed to pilot workload overload. Basically, the pilots had so much to do in such a small span of time. If something went wrong, they had so much going on that it effectively magnified whatever problem they had. Case in point, if it was a manageable problem, that if they weren't preoccupied would be manageable to the point where the flight would have been saved, kind of thing. So there was this increase in all this automation, but there wasn't enough training that would relate the pilots to this new training that they see with how their airplane behaves and flies and all that other stuff. It went from here's how you fly the plane to here's how you push the buttons to make the plane do something. And for a while, everybody thought that was good because you push a button, the plane figures it out, and you let it go. The problem with that is when you do that, when you increase the automation like that, where you're going through and just pushing buttons to do something, you very quickly get behind the aircraft. When you're flying, you should always be ahead of the aircraft. And it sounds like a weird phrase, but you should really be, just like when you're driving, you should think of where your car is ahead of the time. Oh, shut up, Garagus. You got to think about what the plane is going to be doing next, and considering the fact that the plane is moving a heck of a lot faster, you got to do that a lot quicker. More to the point, given the phrase "the children of Agenta," yes, you are correct, Brandon. They are the new pilots that are being trained not in the steam gauges, which represents seat of your pants flying, if you will, versus this completely automated world. Here's one example that he gave in his talk. So he was training a pilot, and this guy was phenomenal. He was a great pilot, very skilled, lots of hours, knew his stuff like the back of his hand. And so he thought, all right, I'm curious what he's going to do in this situation. So they went to the simulator, and what the instructor did, was he programmed in an airplane to fly directly in front of the airplane from right to left. Now, I think he said there was two ways out of it. There were two ways out of it if he saw it in time and B, did one of those two things. And he was just curious which one of those two things he was going to do, you know. You can go down, you can go up and over, or, that sort of thing. Evasive maneuver, basically. So they take off, and as he's climbing out, sure enough, here comes the aircraft on the screen. And the first thing he did was, would you look at that? The second thing he did, it went like this. Now, I know what I just did made absolutely no sense to you guys, but what he did was he looked down and started punching in things into the FMS, and then reached up to the, on an airliner, there's a glare shield panel up here with all your autopilot buttons. As soon as he took off, he engaged the autopilot, which means the plane was flying itself. What he did up here was increase the rate of climb, which is this button here. If I just go like this, 2, 3, 4, and the plane would go like this. Needless to say, he hit the plane. His plane just didn't climb fast enough. And the action of watching this guy do this guy that should know how to fly a plane and avoid the other planes, relied on the automative qualities of his airplane to get out of a very critical situation, and couldn't, because it's not the answer. If what he would have done was on the yoke, you can disengage the autopilot, click that, get out of the way, disengage the auto throttles, which again, that's the plane telling you exactly how fast it wants to go, and you take control of the plane and get out of the situation. Once the instructor noticed that, in fact, actually the instructor looked at the guy and says, I'm sorry I've trained you that way. That's not how this is supposed to go. These are supposed to help you. These functions, these autopilot, these auto throttles are supposed to help. We've taught you to rely on them. So he went back and revised almost all of the training at American Airlines to augment actual flight with these automated things. Yeah, it was pretty bad. The way he tells the story is a little more, there's more detail and whatnot, but that's the kind of gist of it. It was this epiphany. So he went back and in the industry, there's a lot of discussion when safety's involved, and there's a lot of sharing of information. So it was brought up and discussed that, okay, maybe this is the wrong approach. And so they had their little committees, discussions, whatever, and basically came up with the kind of training and the kind of procedures that we actually see today, which is it's a lot of checklist based. It's a lot more checklist based than it was before. But a lot of it is driven to not so that you set up or rely on like your FMS to do the right thing, or your auto land feature to do the right thing, because what they were finding was pilots would plug everything into their FMS and sit back and wake me when we get there, and that was it. What happens with that is you don't see trends, you don't see things that pop up. A lot of the accidents of the last 20 years or so, some of the last things you can hear on a black box recording are, what's it doing now? Or, why is it doing that? As a pilot, you should never be asking your airplane, why is it doing that? As soon as you do that, the plane should no longer have control. Disconnect the autopilot, disconnect the auto throttles, and figure out what the plane is doing. Although usually at that point it's more, let's get the plane back to where it needs to be. I've seen it done here. This plane in particular, it ticked me off, but it was my fault. I set the autopilot, I set a climb out up to altitude just like I did today. But I went and grabbed a drink or went to the bathroom or something. When I came back, the plane was pointed straight up, stalling and nosing over. It crashed. But as I sat there, nose buried in the ground, I go, what happened? I walked away. I had set the autopilot. I gave it an altitude. I gave it a rate of climb. Flaps were up. I'm not over, the airplane is not outside of weight boundaries. I had decent airspeed, but when I left, things were looking good and in the green. Couldn't figure out what happened. So I stopped flying the Caravan for a little bit because it happened a couple more times with me just sitting here over in this screen and not watching the plane, but just being over here, and all of a sudden I hear the stall horn go off, and I catch it, grab it, and fight with it, and get it back down straight and level, let it go, hit the autopilot, and then it flies off and does something else. Oh, har har, Raycon, har har. I'd link the video, but I don't think anybody's as interested in it as I am. But and no, I am this is a revenue flight. I am finishing this flight. This is not a goof off flight as of yet. Speaking of, let's see where we're at. Oops. 5,000 feet, cursor. So this is my VNAV profile. And what this says is I want to reach 5,000 feet at, effectively, because I said 0 miles before, and then I pick that'll work, a profile of 800. So when this VSR, vertical speed rate, matches that, I'm sorry. No, that's right. 8. There we go. Rycon, in a manner of speaking, I do, but it is not tangible. It is all virtual. Actually, Rycon, you're relatively new to these streams where I fly, so check this out. Well, not that. That's an ILS chart. So this is called FS Economy. In FS Economy, it's very simple. It's basically a very large database, and in the database are airports. At these airports are assignments. The assignments can be cargo or passengers. Also at these airports can be FBOs, which have fuel and services and that sort of thing. And then on top of that, there are aircraft, predetermined aircraft, such as the ones you see here. These are my aircraft. I own these. I have purchased these. When you sign up for FS Economy, you start out with $0.00 cash balance. You have no money. Now, I was kind of nervous at this because I'm like, well, then how do you start? Because you kind of got to pay for a flight. Well, yes and no. You pay for the flight upon completion of the flight. And I went, that's right. You don't pay until you're done flying. So you would pick a plane. Like, let's say I'd pick airports here. Okay. I can search for an airport. Let's go to Houston. So there we are. We're at Hobby Houston Airport. There's not a whole lot of flights coming in and out of here. It's not... You're not going to see all the airline flights because they've sort of not done a lot of the big airline stuff because it gets complicated. But for smaller stuff, up to like big business jet type stuff, they have all that stuff here. But anyways, in this list, you can see things like, alright, this flight here, it goes from Houston to Juarez Internet. That's MXZ. General Rafael. Blah, it's in Mexico. They will pay me $5,782 to fly 708 miles at a rough bearing of 239 degrees that way. And I can select that. Whoops. Hello. There we go. It's down here now. I can select that. I can add it to my flight. And then I can see what... Are there no airport? There's no aircraft here. That's weird. That's really weird. There's no aircraft here. Yeah, there would be... Oh, there we go. So these are the aircraft that are on the field that I could rent. So we have a Britannia 300, a DHC-2 Beaver, the BA-146, a 172, a DHC-2. I have no idea what that is. So if I were to fly these medical supplies down to Mexico, it's 333 kilograms. Most of these airplanes would take it. I'd probably take probably the Beaver. I mean, I wouldn't take the 146 because that's a 40 passenger plane. It's only 300 kilograms. I could probably take the Skyhawk even. And so I would just rent it, and you can see how much it costs to rent it. And once it's rented, it goes into my flight, which you see here. This is my current flight. So I'm flying from Salem to Seattle, 5 passengers, and they're going to pay me this much money. And this is my airplane. And when I was at the field in Salem, this action usually says refuel. At the FBO, I can refuel the plane to fly. Some airports don't have fuel. Some airports don't have FBOs. Darkness is all. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. There we go. So yeah, and then I fly my flight. I end the flight. And I get paid. All the fees get taken out. Like there's landing fees, there's handling fees, there's ground crew fees, there's service fees, there's tie down fees. All of it gets deducted from that 4,400 whatever I'm making. So at the end of the day, I'll probably make 3,900 from this flight. And up here you see my cash balance and my bank balance. I don't have anything in the bank because I just bought this plane and I had to, you know, withdraw all my money in order to buy the plane. But yeah, I've got all of these aircraft. But yeah. That's cool, Rakon. That is cool. It's a neat little unobtrusive add-on to flying that kind of makes you, it gives you a bigger reason to fly. Like some of these times I'd be tempted to like do barrel rolls right now or you know, buzz the ground or something. It actually kind of drives you to fly relatively legal, you know. I will add, there have been times where I've had to increase the tailwind in order to get my airplane to my destination quicker because I'm in a time crunch. Because one of the things that you can't do is you can't, like in Microsoft Flight Simulator, you can skew time, increase the, you know, go like 2x, 4x, 10x, and zip to your destination. Yeah, you can't do that. Everything in here is real time. So like this flight's probably going to take a little over an hour. That's what I'm going to get charged for, is a little over an hour. You saw me when we were sitting on the ramp. I started the flight with this X economy start flight. When I land and shut everything down, the finish flight button will come available. I'll finish the flight and I'll get paid. It does a calculation based on your GPS, your lat long, to figure out where you're at to make sure you're at the right airport. It's kind of neat. Setting up my descent here. So 5,000. This thing will tell me in a minute to start descending. But yeah, it's like, you know, like a lot of the other actual simulator games, like the London Underground simulator. Some of the train simulators do it. I know there's a ton of simulators that count passenger travel in the simulation. X-Plane is real, you know, it's more about the pilot experience than missions, we'll say. But this adds that functionality. I'm missing my descent. There we go. This adds that functionality easily. Oops. Nope. Clear. Come on. There we go. Yeah, this adds that functionality, that depth. It's kind of neat. I like it. The FS Economy works on X-Plane, it works on P3D, and it works on FSX, Microsoft Flight Simulator X. So depending on which one suits your fancy. I've heard of Train Town. One of the guys I've seen, a guy on YouTube, 'cause I watch a lot of simulator YouTubers. Don't necessarily subscribe to them, but I do catch them in my suggested list and watch them. And that one's come up a couple times. And coming down from 10, there's 9,000. Bam. Beginning our descent into the Seattle area. Majestic. Looks like you're gonna go poke right through this hole in the cloud layer here. And right now I am running real-time time and weather right now. I did turn it back on. Oh, cool, Brendan. Very cool. Oh. Thanks, Rykon. There you go. As I was saying, whoops. We'll just fly through this hole in the clouds. Give me an airport down there. What airport is that? Turned Olympia. Coming up at Sedug. That's an Air Force base. It's McCord Air Force Base. Lewis McCord Air Force Base. Hi. It's a pretty plane. Hi. No, that's the co-pilot. My co-pilot is Burt Reynolds. I look familiar though. Huh. Yes, I am, Brendan. Yes, I am. Alright. Procedures, select approach. We're going to do the ILS for 3-4 center. ILS 3-4 center. Sedug is the intersection. And we're going to activate. This is actually just going to take us on our present course anyways. The face looks familiar, like Wahlberg. That's my thought anyways. Alright, Brendan. See you in a few minutes. Or whenever. You know. Marky Mark. And the Funky Bunch. Yeah. Yeah. You got it. I mean, look. See? I think it's close. And we're turning. Marking the Bandit. Got it. Next fix will be 4,000. Let's check the altimeter. 3026. That's pretty much what it was. We're fine there. Clicky. So once we get to... So then it's 5,000 from Junior to Lori. From here to here is 5,000. Once we get to Lori, we can drop down to 4,000. Turn on the approach. 1117, so we'll swap that up there. Flaps because we are slowing down. Which pitches the nose forward. That's better. Butter. Let's get my... There we go. Alright, coming up on Junior. So we hold 5,000 until Lori. Just like that. Don't have a runway in sight yet. But we will. We will. Soon enough. A little faster. Gotta keep it within the white arc though. But we could definitely scoot this along a little quicker. Most definitely. Next fixed is Lori. Then Oddbow. At Oddbow, we need to be 4,000. So we'll hit Lori. We'll start down. Alright, take it easy, Brendan. Have a good night. Talk to you later. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. It's good having you here, as always. Underwater beats. Yeah, this plane's not the quickest. It is definitely not the quickest. But it does have very good cargo capacity and passenger capacity. This configuration, 2, 4, 6, 8. This configuration is for 8, 9 technically. There is commuter. There's a commuter layout for up to 14. Which Recon, if you do get into the FS economy stuff, if you buy a plane like the Cessna Caravan, its spec sheet lists out how many passengers and cargo it can carry. So the model in your sim might be differently laid out than what you see in FS economy, but at the end of the day, the gist of it is, as long as it has the right size fuel tanks, you're good to go. They've tried to cut down on a lot of those inconsistencies, those oddities, we'll say. We are almost to Lori. Airport's out here somewhere. Get my aviation binoculars there. I do want the, I need to find the Linux compatible version, but there's a, if I was using Windows, there's a program I could get called Track IR that you wear a hat and it has three little points on it, and through your webcam it will detect how you're looking. So if I picture this like this, there we go. It would be cool. It would be cool, and I wouldn't have to grab the mouse to look around, because one of the trickier things to do in a flight sim are pattern approaches, because a lot of a pattern approach is visual. For example, we can start our descent. For example, if I were to do a typical pattern around Seattle Tacoma here, there's the runway. It's a very square pattern, but one of the rules is if you look out your window and look back 45 degrees from the numbers of the runway you intend to land on, you can start turning your base to final. Well, as you can see, I can't see where I'm going if I look like this. And if I'm flying with this hand on the joystick, I have to use my left hand like this to get the mouse to click the right click and hold and then drag the camera around, and it just I did set up, not on here, but on the Piaggio, some quick keys that cause me to look like this, because then I can see as I'm turning, I can see the airport over here, and that helps a lot. There we go. We've caught the glide slope. Yep, there it is. And she'll fly this all the way in. Successful grapple. We have localizer. We have glide slope. And that automatically switched to nav. Perfect. That's what I like to see. No, not exactly right, Con. You can set the rate at which you turn. So like, if I'm looking, pretend the camera was over here. If I'm looking at the screen like this, you can exaggerate it so that a tip up like this would go and look straight up and just tip down, so that you basically, if I'm looking at the screen like this, and I wanted to look 90 degrees to my right, I could just turn like this, so I'm still looking at the screen, but I would just specify this range of motion here, which would probably be something like this, where it's exaggerated, you know? Oh, what's it? What's it called? Skewed? Not skewed. Well, kind of skewed. But no, yeah, you wouldn't need VR or anything like that. You just say moving this much equals moving that much, kind of thing. Not one-to-one exactly. But it's neat. But it does mess with some mods and some settings. Yeah, exactly. Your mouse sensitivity. That's exactly it. That is exactly it. Was there a cat under there? Felt like there was a cat at my feet. Yeah, just, yeah, the sensitivity. I think the other one is like your scroll wheel has rate aiding kind of thing. You know, you can spin it faster and it goes faster kind of thing. So it's kind of like that too. Get another notch of flaps going. Let's hold this 90 knots. In real time, the sun is setting here in Seattle. I said hold 90. Got one more notch of flaps to go. Put that in a couple 100 feet off the ground. Help us float right in. I think one of these flights I will do one of the bigger airliners. FS Economy does do them, but they're not as readily available as all of the other flights. They're introducing what's called an all-in reserve, where back where I showed the prices for FS Economy, how much they pay for that assignment. What you normally see for the price is what you would make if there were no fees, but there's all kinds of fees. The all-in reserve says, okay, well, this flight's going to be $13,400. If it's an all-in reserve, you're going to get $13,400. You don't pay for the plane. You don't pay for the fuel. You just fly the plane from origin to destination, and you get paid exactly what it says you're going to get paid. I don't like it too much because I don't think the time effort is worth it. For example, I flew from San Diego to Anchorage. Why is my fuel low? You should be feeding on both. This says my fuel's low. I mean, I'm gonna land it. But that's just odd. Oops. Anyways. Landing lights coming on. Slow down a little bit. I want this thing about 80 as I go over the numbers. Anything less than 80, we'll say. So once I hit 80, drop the last notch of flaps, like so. so we've got full flaps. Nose will tip over, come back up, perfect. And again, but what I'm doing is I am monitoring the controls. I have my thumb pushing that will disconnect the autopilot quickly. No, that is nope, not true. You crash a plane. In X-plane, you will simply be transported to the nearest airport to try it again, which will, in FS Economy, cancel your flight because it will detect that you have translated your plane. You've gone from A to B when you shouldn't have gone from A to B. So it'll straight up cancel your flight, and it sucks. I have rage quit before because of a crash, you know. Especially the big money ones. Alright, see, I'm still on autopilot. Mostly because it's very calm winds here today. That's good enough. Retard the throttle. And flare it. Keep it off, keep it off, keep it off, keep it off, keep it off. Ease it on. There we go. Nose wheel, bring it around. And there we go. Simple. Apply a few brakes. I don't even need reverse on this. This thing is so docile. I love it. And we turn right here. Welcome to Seattle Tacoma International Airport. Where am I going to park this thing? But yeah, so a crash would just mean that you've got to redo that flight all over again. And it doesn't count as a crash in FS Economy. You don't lose the plane. You only lose the plane in a monetary sense if you sell it or you don't pay your maintenance fees. The bank will repo it, basically. Let's go over here. Let's find the stand. There it is. And in we go. Let's see what that gives us. Oh, look at that. So close. That's good enough. And I didn't even hit the skyway. Nice. Alright, to shut down the Caravan, it's pretty simple. Pull it to feather. We cut the fuel. Turn off the fuel pump. Turn off the avionics. Turn off the lights. Turn off the power. And we go up here, we end the flight. Like so. The finish flight button will not show up until I've actually powered off the engine. And there we go. It took an hour and 25 minutes from start to finish. Got all 5 passengers here. There's still this much fuel on the plane. So that gets loaded into the database that says the next person who rents this plane, or me, will have 108 gallons of fuel on that plane. So, when I talk about moving the Super Cub closer to the airport, what I mean to say is, when I'm going to go race against Dav, sure, I could just hop in the plane and just open up the airport and do the race and then, you know, it's all good and whatnot. No, I kind of actually want to try doing FS Economy and the race. So that means I have to physically move the plane to where I want it to start before I can fly it. So hop in the Super Cub. I think this is the one I want. This should be a short flight. Yeah, close enough. Well, let me see if there's a different livery. That's better. Alright, location, global airport. We're looking at KMTP, Montauk. Gonna do a ramp start at General Aviation Parking. KMTP. And I'm not gonna fly this at night because it's kind of boring for you guys. So it's night time because the time is accurate, but the I'm sorry, the time is incorrect, but the weather is accurate for the time. If that makes sense. All right, let's see. See how we want to do this. So Montauk is here. I'll show you what I'm doing. So Montauk is here. This is JFK down here, and what I kind of want to do, I need to figure out. So here's New Haven. So this is where we're going, and this is where I'm at. Since we haven't really decided where, the weather is current if the time is not. That is correct. Because I have real weather turned on. So this is the current weather, different time. It's weird. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to fly to here. Long Island, MacArthur Field. So what that's going to mean is we're just going to fly down the coast. And we're going to pass 1 airport, 2 airport, 3 airport, and then we're going to get there. What that's going to do is that's going to give me equidistant between New Haven and actually it's LaGuardia, isn't it? Yeah, close enough. So that's LaGuardia. Up there's New Haven. Yeah, I think we'll make this work. I think it will be good. Alright. Mixture rich. Avionics on, battery on. I don't want the ATIS right now. There's not a whole lot to the Super Cub. Prime it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And give it a go. Simple. Beacon, nav. Let's put on a landing light. Why not? Hold on. Let's jump out. Have a look around. So that's the beast. Rudder works. Elevator works. Oh, that's cool. Did you see the pilot? So, elevator. Rudder. And ailerons. Ooh, 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 ooh. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Do, 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 do. What is love? I'm sorry. Crap, I don't have quick controls for this. Alright, nope, I'm gonna straight VFR this one. Not even gonna bother. Alright. What are the winds out here? Low enough, I don't care. Okay. Yeah, right? Okay. So the trick with flying a tail dragger... Hey, Moshmo. What's up, dude? Trick with the tail dragger is you've got main gear up front, as you see. You've got main gear up front and a little bitty tail wheel. as you increase speed, you can get the tail off the ground, kind of like that, as I skipped. Well, I'll show you as I go to take off here. Alright. Now, the problem I have with this is I can't hit the brakes because they're maximum brakes, and that will cause the plane to do a prop strike. And I can't... Hang on. This is gonna get bad, so let me set up some camera views. So there's that. I'm sorry, not control. And then we're gonna do control 4, control 6. I think it should be good enough for now. So the end of the runway's over there. Decent sized runway. I can start right here. Okay. Let's go to Montauk, rent my plane real quick. There we go. Start the flight before I forget. How much fuel did I give this thing? Crap. Let's cancel that. Really sure. Flight canceled. Okay. Let's refresh the page. Refuel. We're going to top it off. 36 gallons. Bam. There we go. Okay. Start flight. 36 gallons. Where's my fuel gauge? There it is. Yep. Topped off. And topped off. Perfect. Alright. As I was saying, so with a tail dragger, you very clearly can't see directly in front of you. This is also called conventional landing gear because this is how planes were originally designed, all of them. Tricycle gear is a more modern concept, but as you move around, you use your peripheral, the stuff on the right and the left, to determine your center. So, give it some power. As I do, the tail's going to come up, but I have to keep the nose off the ground. There we go, just like that. And we're off the ground. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. Now what I want to do is that's heading north. So I want to head basically westish. Oh, I forgot. I tweaked the engine in this thing. I gave it 180 horses. Because... Alright, so that's going to do that. So that's the coast I want to follow there. Yeah, Moshmo, I'm in New York. When you're coming up near your stomping grounds, I'm heading towards LaGuardia. I'm up in Montauk right now. We're gonna shoot down the length of Long Island here. Position ourselves for the DAV versus X, plane versus train stream. The great race, as it were. Beautiful plane. Beautiful. Got a bit of a slip. Hey, Dav. Yes, I told you I was going to fly the Super Cub. Soon, Recon. Soon. Very soon. Speak of the devil. I seem to have quite a crab. Yep, that's quite a crab. You'll notice I'm not flying straight. Basically, I'm pointed this way, but I'm moving this way. You are just in time. Montauk's just behind me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fly roughly halfway down Long Island. And... what was the name of the field again? Islip. Yeah, I'm slowly making my way down there. Once Dave gets good internet for a decent amount of time, we can get this ball rolling. This is supposed to do what? Oh, the flying. Oh, I'm a little delayed. It is actually So what's happening is I don't have a plane near me. Stinker. We'll do this. So hold on. Use my glasses case. So you've got your plane, right? Fuselage, tail, wings, kind of thing. As you fly, you kind of cut through the air straight like this, right? Well, oops. I forgot this thing doesn't have an autopilot. I am the autopilot. Anyway, so as the plane is flying through the air, it cuts a relatively straight path. However, if there is a wind component, such as like from this direction, it will push on the plane on the vertical tail, which will act like a windmill, or a wind vane rather, and so it'll actually twist like this. So you're still being propelled forward. Your vector's this way, but you're pointed that way, kind of thing. It's called a crab angle. Speaking of flying straight, yeah, that's the P factor for you. It's torque roll, if you will. But yeah, the joys of no autopilot. But yeah, this thing's a beast. This thing is a beast. Airport around here somewhere. I don't know if it's in there. It's a grass strip somewhere over here. But yeah, perfectly natural. Perfectly expected. How is it not causing you to fly in the direction you're actually pointing? Again, because it's pushing against your... You know how the weather vane will basically like kind of point the direction the wind is blowing? Actually, the ones that are actually shaped like airplanes make a little more sense when I do or talk about this. It's a little breezy up here. It pushes against your tail, which every motion action in an airplane causes the plane to move about its center of gravity. So the simple act of pushing against, the tail will push the nose one way, while everything else is trying to propel it forward, and it shifts that forward vector is all it does really. Now keep in mind though, and this is kind of the tricky part, and to come down and getting too high for VFR. once the plane leaves the ground, all air is relative dead on. So even when the plane's pointing like that, all the wind is coming straight at it. It's weird, but that's how it is. Stop climbing here. Alright, so this airport here, I believe, is East Hampton. So that's that guy. So we've just flown over the Amagansett National Wildlife Refuge. Well, think of the vector math. When you have, you know, a force this way and a force this way, your resultant vector's that way. Well, the plane's force in one direction is greater than the wind's force in the other direction, so the vector is only pulled a little bit towards the wind way. It's the same thing. It's all of flying can be reduced to vectors, more or less. But I'm just saying that the pushing of that causes is the physical effect. Mathematically speaking, it's just the vectors and vector math. I think that's East Hampton. Yep, 3 runways, shape of an A. Yep, bam. And then just beyond it, right off my nose, should be... I'm sorry, that's across the water. Ah, inertia guy. Yeah, more or less. More or less. Oops. There we go. Yeah, the problem with flying VFR in New York is I don't have a good relative... I mean, it's pretty well detailed here. But a lot of the physical features of... Here, I'll show you. A lot of the physical features of New York are kind of hidden. So this is East Hampton. This is where we're at. That's that airport down there, which you can't see because I put up chrome. This is where we took off, so we've kind of flown down through here. What I'm going to do is hit this airport here, West Hampton, and then I'm just going to fly a rough, what would that be? Probably about a 2-4 heading, and just go bam, 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 right down the line. And that's my destination right there, Islip. It's roughly equidistant from Islip to LaGuardia up to New Haven, so I'm like halfway, if you want to look at it that way. I can reach either one equidistantly, so depending on how we want to set it up, because I keep forgetting every time. But hey, at least I've got this plane down here. It used to be up in Maine. Because the pits about this aircraft are, there's no autopilot. I have to fly the whole thing by hand. I don't really have a way to turn down the volume in this plane. Because I mean, for all intents and purposes, I could forego this whole FS economy thing and just load the plane up where I feel and call it good. But I kind of like this realness of it. Like there's a setup for it, you know. It's neat. There's prep work involved. It makes it just that much more real. Fair point, Raikon. Fair point. I'd like to see more boat sims. You know? I wouldn't mind doing that. I like boats. And I don't mean like ocean liners and the like. Like in college, my roommate was a pilot. Wanted to join the sailing club because there aren't many good ones out there. I looked into that. But no, he joined the sailing club because he wasn't always flying, but he wanted to be as close to flying as he could. And as you know, boats and sailing is just it's an airplane on its end, on its wing. That's all it is. When you're changing the sail, which in the wind looks exactly like an airfoil, it's just like turning the plane. And so you just take what you know about flying an airplane this way and apply it this way. And then you just add in water and that sort of thing and complicate things unnecessarily, but Dev. So here we are, we're coming up over Hampton Bay, or Hampton Bays. Directly below me is Southampton. Oh, yes, the Southamptons. Down there, yes. That's about right. And I see the rotating beacon of Gabreski? Yeah, Gabreski. Once I get over that airport, I'm going to look for the next rotating beacon, which should be Brookhaven. And then we're almost there. Off to my right, let's get the binoculars out. Right there that's Montauk. Another airport out here. There's quite a few airports on Long Island, I'm noticing. Once we get abreast of Gabreski, to our left will be West Hampton. So we had East Hampton, and then Southampton, and then West Hampton. What I don't see is Northampton. I see Bridgehampton. Huh. Mm. 5,000 feet. It's looking to be a pretty cruddy night. A little bit of a wind, nothing too bad. yeah? Promising, eh? Let's keep an eye out for that then. Provided it runs on Linux, of course. See, I hate that when it's like, sorry, it's only Windows and Mac. Because the difference between a Mac release and a Linux release is like 4 libraries. That's it. It amazes me how many devs do not understand that Mac is, for all intents and purposes, you know, it's effectively Linux. It's a variant of Unix, just as Linux is a variant of Unix. The libraries are similar. There's a few differences, but in general, it's the same. Bugs the crap out of me. Yep, that is indeed Gabreski. Never heard of it. Har har, Steve Jobs. I just find it funny that when coming up with operating systems, you had Windows, which did it its own way, and you had Unix, which did it. Actually, you had Unix, which did it its own way. Then you had Windows, which did it a different way, and then you had Mac, which basically did it the Unix way. Alright, there's the next airport. Right there. You can see the beacon. Now that could either be Spadaro or Brookhaven. Let's see, there's a river. There's a river. No, I know. I know, I got you. I know that. It's not really a river. Get my aviation binoculars out again. Is that an airport? That is the... That's Spadaro there. So that's Spadaro. That makes that out there. Yep, that's Brookhaven. Alright, so let's head towards Brookhaven. Start our descent, kill the throttle a little bit. This thing will drop quickly, so actually it's not dropped so fast. I do enjoy the vantage point. Just beyond Brookhaven, there are no other airports. Well, there's Bayport just to the south and east of is Islip, whatever. But the next rotating beacon I should see will be Islip, and that is my destination. Oh, yeah, it's Long Island MacArthur, ISP. This is what you do for a VFR flight. You reference your map, find it in the real world, and you know where you're at. I think I mentioned this before, but when you do VFR, one of the tricks, especially out here in the Midwest, is to, if you want to know where you're at, you find the nearest small town, and you fly really close to the water tower, and you read the name of the town. Find the town on the map, and you know where you are. It reminds me of this. There's a YouTube video out there of I can't remember if it's a guy in a truck or a guy herding cattle down a road. I think it was a guy in a truck. It's Russia. It could be any of those. And one of the Russian attack helicopters, like a Mil-24 or something, lands on the road. And the guy just sort of like stops. I mean, you got a Russian military helicopter landing in front of you. And this guy gets out of the helicopter and comes running up to the guy who just sits there. And he's like, what the heck? And he starts motioning with his hands. And then you see the guy sort of like point, and then like point there, and then point there. And then the Russian guy goes, and follows him. And it's like, oh, thank you, and runs back in. The helicopter was lost. So they saw the guy on the road, landed, asked him for directions to get back to the airbase because the weather was so inclement they couldn't see, and they didn't have the proper equipment to fly through the weather. So they literally just landed and asked for directions. It's a little harder to do in an airplane, depending on the airplane, but absolutely not unheard of. There's the next airport, right dead ahead. That should be our destination. Whoa, whoops. That's what we get for resting my hand there. Drop the flaps. Not what I wanted to do. But hey, at least my engine isn't dead yet. If I did die here, well, I have an airport below me. So that's fortuitous. Trying to lose altitude airplane. One of the harder to understand concepts of flying that they don't actually teach you very often in flight training, traditional flight training. It's the concept of energy management. What it means is, picture, it's more applicable to a glider, but it directly correlates to an airplane. When you think of a glider, energy management is how a glider operates. You're towed up to altitude, so you gain energy, potential and kinetic, And you manage that on your way down so that you run out of energy when you're on the ground. The same thing applies in an airplane. Flying up to altitude and having a forward airspeed with given throttle is a particular energy. And on the way to this airport, I have to manage that in such a way that I don't have to bleed off the airspeed, as it were, lose that energy. It doesn't go with me. Not exactly related, but I remember a couple years ago there was a commercial plane that had malfunctioning landing gear, so they got to pick. Yeah, there's been a couple of those. There's been some where they had a guy in the one was a car, one was a pickup truck, reach up and grab the landing gear to pull it down and lock it in place. I've seen that one take place a couple times. All kinds of crazy stuff. Looks like we can do a straight in here. Let me check the winds real quick. Might not want to. So winds are from the... Actually, yeah. We're going to go approach from that side. But anyways, one of the ways you can bleed off energy, and this is how it's taught when you're in traditional flight training. The concept of energy is touched on, but not referred to as such. When you're coming in to land, there's a very confusing phraseology where your pitch determines your airspeed and your altitude. You pitch for your airspeed, basically. And what that means is you simply slow your descent or increase your descent to increase your speed. Your throttle is going to control your altitude. You'll see as slow as I'm going, I'm kind of holding a speed. If I increase the throttle, the altitude increases, but the airspeed kind of stays the same. And that's kind of what that means. But in a way, you're managing your energy a certain way. Right, this is a long base. It'll be a nice long final as well. Landing light on. Simple airplane. Simple. Yep, that's the airport. See how looking to the left is easier? Which one? The grabbing of the wheel? Dev? There's such a delay on when I stream apparently that I don't know which one you mean. I think it went to three stories. Oddly enough, I don't think I'm dropping any... Oh no, I dropped the chunk of frames. It hiccuped earlier. Oh, the pickup truck landing gear? Yeah, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. YouTube it. It's out there. mouse control back into this window so then I can do these. Nice, long, slow approach. Notch of flaps just to help us slow down a little bit, give us a better attitude for our approach into Islip. Now the trick with landing with a tail dragger, the ideal landing is called the three-point landing. In fact, that's where the phrase comes from. And that's where your mains and your tail wheel touch down at the same time. And it's not easy. Sometimes other landings are preferred, such as coming out on the mains and then settling down is another typical way. But a three-point landing is desired because it's skillful. It's not an easy thing to do. Because the problem with, I don't want to say the problem, but one of the potential hazards with conventional landing gear is the ease at which you can nose the plane over and cause a prop strike. Hush. Hush and hush. I can't turn that one off. So like as you come into land, you can't have a nose low attitude because there's a potential your prop will strike before your landing gear does, and that's not a good thing. White over white, we're still pretty high at this point. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to lower the throttle a little bit and kind of pull up a little bit to slow down, but increase our descent speed. Just a little bit. That should hold it right there. This plane has such a short landing distance. I could fly down to the other end of the runway and still land before I ran out of asphalt. These planes are amazing. Properly equipped, of course. The ones we flew for banner towing had stole kits, short takeoff and landing kits, extended flaps, and squared wings. And all of those things added together gave it a stall speed of 35 miles an hour. Which means the plane could fly slower than most cars go down the road. Plenty of height. Plenty of height. And I actually kind of want to land long anyways, because it looks like the taxi to the hangars would be shorter that way. Which is a consideration for landing, believe it or not. Because you also don't want to spend a lot of time on the runway, and as soon as you get on the runway, you slow down. As long as you're in the air, you're going faster than you would on the ground. So sometimes it's ideal on a particularly long runway not to make it a perfect, short, quick landing because you'll spend more time taxiing, and it can actually kind of save fuel too, because you're almost at idle this entire phase right here, whereas taxiing you actually have power. So in all fairness, you would actually save on fuel a very little bit. Scrooge. I have a slight crab here. Not as bad as it was coming down the coast, but I do still have a crab. Coming in pretty quick, but this thing will slow down pretty well. So we've got full flaps. And what we'll do is we'll fly this crab all the way down. And then just before we flare, we'll kick the tail back to the left and line us back on the runway. Take it easy, Recon. Thanks for sticking around, man. Alright, tail comes out like so. Ooh, that was close. And I didn't land it long either. Dang it. So we got a bit of a taxi in front of us. And obviously the trick with taxiing these things is, in the Super Cub it's a little easier, you have a little bit more visibility, but if you're in like a Stearman, you can't see anything. You actually wind up doing this, where you'll swing the tail out, and then swing the tail back, and then center it, and then just do that and repeat, and so your whole taxiway just looks like a bunch of S's. It's kind of neat. But I think Tower is going to want us to get off of this runway pretty quick here, so. I mean, ideally they could have just had me land on a taxiway, but what are you going to do? I see a taxiway coming up here. We'll take it to the left. Looks like Charlie taxiway. I have to tap the brakes because, again, they are max power brakes, so they will nose the plane over, and I don't want that. There we go. Like so. Now we're clear to the active. And we'll taxi to the right here. So the big commercial guys, there's airport charts. Actually, you know what? I'll just finish it here. I can handle this topic. So stop it. Stop. 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 Sit. Because I also kind of want to see the landing on that real quick. Finish. Okay. So, whoops. Let's get out of the plane. So, around the airport, I know you've seen the markers, and they tell you where you're at, what taxiway you're. Like this says you're on Bravo, and you're approaching runway 624. So as you sit here and look at this sign, it says on Bravo, approaching 624. A sign like. Here we go. A sign like this says you're on Bravo, which is this taxiway here, and it says Bravo 2 is to your right. That's what the yellow, black on yellow means, sort of thing. Now, what that correlates to, let's go this route here. Doop. Doop. So this is Seattle. I'm going to open up this PDF. And so what you see is, if you were landing, let's say you landed 3-4 center here. And so you landed, you touched down, and the first spot you'd be able to pull off is high speed K, right here. So as you landed, tower would tell you Delta 247, turn right on taxiway Kilo, contact ground. So what he would do is get onto Kilo and cross the all clear line, called ground, and ground he'd say, you know, Delta 247, or Seattle ground, Delta 247, Delta 247, continue on Kilo. So you'd come around here, clear to cross 34 right on Kilo, taxiway Bravo to the ramp. And so, I mean, it's pretty simple instructions. So he'd come across 34 left, or I'm sorry, 34 right on Kilo, and he intersects Bravo here, which is this long taxiway here, which includes all the ramps, and taxiway Bravo into the ramp. And they just follow those signs. They're easier to see from, you know, up top of 747, but but yeah, this map comes up either on their displays or can't see me, or in one of these airport directory, which has approach plates for how to get into the airport, all the instrument procedures, but in addition, sometimes, nope, this is all procedures. I have a terminal book around here somewhere that lists all of the airports, every airport that is in a particular area, like the Northeast, the Southeast, Midwest, are listed there. You can open them up, reference them, know where you're going, and you can there's also two other ways. So you can get progressive taxi instructions, which basically, if you're new to an airport, and even the taxiway diagram is confusing, and believe me, even the controllers are aware of that, and they will say, okay, turn right here, all right, now turn left here, now turn right here, and there you are. That's not good protocol or good etiquette at a busy airport. The other way is it's called a follow me car, and they do this a lot in Europe. There's a guy employed by the airport who drives a car with a big flashing sign that says follow me, and what he does is he runs out to an airplane and sits in front of it, and he will drive, and you just follow the truck or car, whatever it is. But yeah, there's so for controlling an aircraft, you have clearance. What clearance does is figure out, in the grand scheme of things, in the great highway in the sky, they figure out where you can fit, and that's why they're called clearance, because they give you clearance to a window in the greater highway in the sky. Once you have your clearance, you talk to ground. Ground tells you where to go. Then they'll eventually guide you to the active runway. And once you get to the runway, you switch to the tower. The tower has control over the runways. And then they'll talk you through takeoff. And as you leave the airport and tower's airspace, they hand you off to departure. Departure gets everybody out of the airport safely. And they hand you off to center, like Jacksonville Center or Denver Center or Chicago Center, and they handle all of the in-air traffic between all the airports. And then as you get handed from center to center, depending on where you're going, then you'll get handed to approach, which is just the opposite of departure, and then it's the reverse. So then you would, from approach, you talk to tower for permission to land, and then once you land, you talk to ground, and once you talk to ground, if you're an airliner, you'll actually talk to ramp, which is usually a guy on your company with a walkie-talkie, generally. Or at some airports like JFK, they actually have guys at each ramp that sort of control their area, because it can get very confusing because it's very tight quarters in there. One guy being pushed out can block everybody else. So I do want to watch the replay real quick. bleep, 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 bleep. Because I didn't hear 3 squeaks, I heard 1. And if that's the case, that's my 3rd 3-point landing in a row. We were talking for a bit. Up, up. I saw the prop stop. Or twist in the wind. As it is wont to do. Yeah, wind twists. Oh, come on, I wasn't talking that long. Maybe I was. I forgot I can just move the slider there. There we go. Plate. Do. Tee. It's coming right for us. I might have pulled that back a little too far. Oh well. Fairly stable approach. Killing the throttle. If I didn't kill that, we'd have landed longer than we actually did. But here you can kind of see how the crab angle works. I'm pointed that way, but actually going that way. Oh, cool, they got the VOR over there. Or radar VOR. It's a towered airport, so it's a busy airport. And there's kicking the rudder out. And... Ooh. Ooh. And... Golly, you know, I can't tell. Because the tail wheel never actually, like, you know, you can see that the wheels aren't exactly on the ground, so. Well, that's a cool view. The pickup truck view. I'm gonna say that was a 3-pointer. I'm gonna say that was close enough. I think that was close enough. That's actually a cool little view. Ah! Anyways, let's stop that. Stop that. Let's get out of there. Let's pop out of there. Let's sit right here. All right. That's it. I think I'm going to call it right here. I think I will. So we got 2 flights in. Salem up to Seattle, and then Montauk over to Islip. Once again, positioning the Super Cub for the great race. So, yeah, I think that'll do it for today. Thank you guys for coming out. Dav, I think it's just you at this point. Thank you so much for swinging by, spending your evening while you're researching. Watch me derp around in an airplane. I do appreciate it. And, yeah. I'd go raid, but it'd just be you and me. So yeah. Oh well. Alrighty, let me find my OBS stuff here, and we'll patch things up. And maybe I'll do this again Saturday. Maybe, possibly. We'll see. Maybe. Alright. Take it easy, Dav. Anybody else listening, watching? I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye.